Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we're looking at a story that has just completely taken over the NBA news cycle, and it's all centered on the Golden State Warriors. Our sources, and this is from a major report by some ESPN insiders, they're suggesting that the trade speculation around the team it's really intensified. I mean, one source didn't hold back at all, saying the situation has escalated to a nuclear level.
That's a pretty dramatic language.
It is, and that tells you the stakes are just incredibly high. So our mission today is to get past all the hype and really unpack what's going on here, the financial reality behind this rumored roster overhaul. We're going to connect three crucial pieces of the puzzle: the salary cap, which is always unforgiving, team chemistry concerns, and of course the future of this dynasty.
And for you, the listener, the core finding we've pulled from all this reporting is pretty stark. It seems that if the Warriors front office really wants to make a blockbuster trade, one centered on moving Jonathan Kuminga, the math of the NBA just dictates something else. It dictates that including a really crucial long-tenured player isn't just an option. It seems to be almost mandatory.
Because Kuminga's contract alone isn't enough.
Exactly. His talent is huge, but his salary number just isn't big enough to anchor a deal for a true star.
Okay, let's unpack this right now, because every single rumor, every late night call, it all hinges on the cold, hard numbers we're about to get into.
Yeah.
We really have to understand the financial vice that's forcing this choice.
Right. We're dissecting the analysis from ESPN insiders Tim McMahon and Brian Windhorst, which they detailed on the Hoop Collective. And, they weren't just talking about talent, they were analyzing spreadsheets. And the clear consensus from them is that for the Warriors to get the kind of player they need to be a real contender again, they have to package a significant amount of outgoing salary.
It's a matching league.
It is. And McMahon, who's always deep in these cap situations, he laid out what he called the harsh reality. He basically said, look, if the Warriors are going to pull off an out-of-the-blue blockbuster trade.
Meaning like a top-tier player.
A real star, yeah. He said, when you look at the numbers, Draymond Green is probably getting shipped out. That's the financial conclusion, regardless of his legacy or his value on the court.
And that's what makes this whole thing so difficult, right? The emotional cost versus the competitive need. We know Windhorst confirmed that in any big move, Jonathan Kuminga is the guy who would set up to be traded. But this is where we need the details. Why isn't Kuminga's contract enough by itself?
It just comes down to the league's salary matching rules. A team like the Warriors, they're way over the cap, they're deep in the luxury tax, so they have really strict limits on how much salary they can take back in a trade.
Right.
And Kuminga's salary is good, it's substantial, but it's not a max contract, it's not a star contract.
So give us those numbers, because this is where our listeners need that context.
Of course. So the source material has Kuminga's salary figure at about $22.5 million.
Yeah.
If you trade him alone, under the most common trade rule, the 125% rule, they can only bring back a player making around, say, $28 million. And while that gets you a very good player, it probably doesn't get you that game-changing star who can run the offense when Steph Curry's on the bench.
And there's the gap. That's the gap that Draymond Green's contract fills perfectly.
Basically.
The figures we have are Draymond's making $25.8 million this season, and he has a player option for $27.6 million next year. So you combine Kuminga and Green, and suddenly you have over $48 million in outgoing salary.
Exactly. And that aggregation is everything. $48 million in salary lets you target a whole different tier of player, right? Someone in that $35, maybe $40 million range. That's the kind of move that shifts you from a fringe playoff team back into a real championship threat.
So if we connect this to the bigger picture,
Right.
This changes the whole strategy.
Completely. Green's contract in this scenario isn't being valued for his defense or leadership. It's being valued almost purely as a financial tool. It's just a huge necessary chunk of salary to make the math work. They'd be sacrificing legacy for cap flexibility.
But wait a minute. If you move Green just for the numbers, aren't you trading the known quantity, what the sources call the heart and soul of the defense, for a star who might not even fit? I mean, doesn't the source address the incredible risk in that? Tearing out your identity just to make a salary slot bigger?
The reporting suggests that's a risk the front office is now willing to take.
Yeah.
And it's because they believe the status quo, the current path, is not leading to another ring. The reporting implies that the financial necessity is starting to outweigh that emotional risk. The thinking seems to be that the current dynamic, the one that relies on that original core, has sort of run its course competitively. The calculus is that without a huge financial move, they're just stuck.
Which brings us perfectly to the timing of this report. This is where it gets really explosive. This bombshell didn't just drop out of nowhere.
No, not at all.
It surfaced right after that heated Green Curse sideline confrontation. That public drama just adds a whole different layer of urgency, doesn't it?
Oh, the timing is absolutely significant. Insiders don't start discussing these complicated financial packages, packaging Kuminga and Green, unless those conversations are actually happening at the highest levels inside the organization.
Right. It's not just fan speculation at that point.
Not at all. The sources are suggesting the front office isn't talking about small tweaks. They're considering a full roster overhaul.
Yeah.
That confrontation on the sideline seems to have been a catalyst, maybe forcing them to admit that, relying on the old chemistry to fix things isn't working anymore.
It signals a massive strategic pivot.
A huge one. It's a move away from just preserving the big three at all costs.
And we have to remember the team's record when this came out. I mean, the Warriors were actually starting to look better. The report landed when they were 16-15. They were on a 3-game winning streak.
Right, including that big Christmas Day win over Dallas.
Exactly. A winning streak should calm things down, shouldn't it? It suggests maybe things are working themselves out.
You'd think so. It definitely complicates the narrative. But the sources imply the front office is looking beyond just a few good games. When one source says the writing is on the wall, they're talking about the bigger trend. The team's inability to be a consistent elite contender. They're looking at the whole first half of the season, all the conflicts, all the inconsistency.
And this puts a huge spotlight on the GM, Mike Dunleavy Jr. If he's the one to pull this trigger, he's basically dismantling the team his predecessors built. What are the sources saying about his motivation here?
The sources are framing this as Dunleavy deciding to swing for the fences. And that language is key. It signals an aggressive move, a step away from sentimentality. It means he believes the only way to capitalize on Steph Curry's last few prime years is to get immediate high-end talent, even if it costs him the dynastic core. He's putting immediate contention above everything else.
So the financial pressure is there, the internal context suggests the will to make a move is there.
Which brings us to the cost. The strategic and, the emotional cost of it all. For you, the listener, who's watched this team for a decade, this is just a massive trade-off. The cost isn't just Jonathan Kuminga, the young guy who's their future.
Yeah.
It's also Draymond Green, the player the source literally describes as the heart and soul of the dynasty.
It's an identity crisis that's disguised as a salary cap problem. And to justify that emotional price, the player they get back has to be an immense talent. And the sources gave us a hint. They mentioned a specific name, or at least a type of player. They said someone like Trey Murphy III, or what they called another impact player.
Okay, let's break that down. Why a guy like Trey Murphy III? He's not a $40 million superstar.
Exactly, and that's the point. It's not just about getting a big name, it's about getting a specific profile that fills their holes. Murphy is a high-volume, very efficient shooter, and he's a young, capable defender.
So if you're trading Green, you need to replace some of that defense.
You do. But you also desperately need to address the lack of consistent shooting outside of Steph and Clay. Someone like Trey Murphy III gives you both floor spacing and youth. It lets you accelerate your competitive window without, totally mortgaging the future.
So if you just look at it as a math problem, the solution seems to require Green's contract, even though it creates a whole new set of massive problems. The ultimate trade-off, driven by cold logic, is right there for us. Do you sacrifice the players who defined your entire past decade, the very core of your identity, for financial flexibility and a potential star? All because the rigid salary rules say you have to.
It really is the moment where the spreadsheet wins out over the scrapbook. The sources are telling us the financial and the internal pressures have aligned to make the unthinkable, necessary. The value of Draymond's $25.8 million contract as a trade chip, its ability to get you immediate firepower, has, it seems in the front office's eyes, surpassed his value as the team's emotional anchor.
And that's the heart of the report. That's it. The organization has hit a point where the only path back to contention requires them to